Hey spooky YouTube, join our awesome host and spooky guest along with myself for a very special Halloween challenge, Black Cat Edition. Here is my contribution to the challenge, a large black cat cardboard cutout made out of, recycled cardboard and paper. Here's an image I drew in Procreate. You can download this instantly for free if you'd like to follow along with the video. Link is in the description box below. To edit this image, I'm using Canva, but you can use any image editing software you're comfortable with. Canva is free and very user-friendly. Once you've downloaded the image, start a new file that is 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. And now I'm going to upload the file to Canva. I could technically do this in Procreate, but seeing as how Canva is more widely accessible, I'm going to go with Canva for this example. Here I'll be using a process called rasterizing, and that's when you take a small image and blow it up as large as you'd like and print it out into multiple pieces of paper and puzzle it all back together again to form one big picture. In this case, I'm only going to be doing 2 pages big. Stretch out about double its size, so that way the top left portion prints out and the bottom left portion prints out. So once you've done that, make a copy, and now you have 2, and you drag this bottom one upward. So now you have both left sides in full view. In order to not waste a whole bunch of ink on this, reduce the opacity to about 50% or just light enough to where you can see it when it prints out. If you do want to go ahead and print this whole image out and just keep the image itself the way it is, then by all means go hard on that opacity. However, for this project, I'm going to be making a stencil out of this, so it doesn't have to be on full-blown HD color, just visible enough to know where we're cutting. Alright, now I go ahead and hit share and download both these images as a PNG file. Canva will bundle these up as a PDF file, unless you specify, which is fine. Once you've named it, downloaded it, opened it, you just print it as you would. I'm going to take the top piece and cut about 1/2 inch from the bottom and overlap that on the other piece of paper till we get it pretty aligned. And now securing it with clear tape from the front and the back. As you can see, at the tip of the nose is our center point. I'm cutting along the edges with an Exacto knife. Then I'll be cutting out the details such as the ears, eyes, nose, mouth, eyebrow, and whiskers. I'm using cardstock so I can reuse this template without the risk of ripping it and having to do this whole thing all over again if I wanted to replicate this sign. I'm just roughly tracing the edge, and then once I'm done, I will flip it over and do the other side. Seeing as how this image is in proportion, this is the reason why we only have to print out half of the face, because we can easily mirror it. Alright, now I got the other side traced and it's all ready to cut out. I'm using orange, black, and white cardstock paper for the accent pieces. I'm going to make the eyes and ears a bit 3D by tracing over the cardboard and cutting those pieces out and putting orange cardstock behind them. I'm going to draw out where I'm going to cut out my eyes and ears and then do the other side. Almost there, and I'm going to trace out the ears. I don't know about you, but I don't trust my painting skills to whisk the whiskers with a brush. So I'm going to cut those parts out where I'm going to sponge over it with some paint. If I smudge, I can then clean it up with the brush because it's easier for me to correct my mistakes as opposed to preventing them. With that said, if you are more inclined to do this by hand, that would save you some time cutting out these small pieces. Alright, so I already cut out the nose. Next is a mouth that we'll be using to make a stencil / template out of. FYI, I did not cut myself from the Exacto knife. I cut it from grabbing a piece of paper too quickly because I am very accident prone, as you can tell from the back of my hand. Needless to say, I do my own stunts in this production. Alright, so depending on how thick your cardboard is, you may have to go over this a few times with the razor. You are the human cricket. You are the silhouette. Grab a snack. You deserve it. Now that we got our eyes and ears trimmed out, I'm going to paint over this whole thing with some acrylic matte paint. It's just cheap craft paint I picked up at Walmart. And you just want to go through all the little crevices, and while that air dries, I'm going to make some ruff. I'm big on ruffles this year. I don't know what it is. Vintage ruffles, that's the name of the game here. And basically I just pinch and overlap, and I'll use the ruler to hold it in place. And once I get a good few inches, I'll tape it with some painter's tape, masking tape. Yeah, just flip it over on the very edges and just work your way through till you get a nice big bundle as such. And now for the mouth template, I'm going to take half of the mouth and lay that in between a folded piece of paper with the center part meeting the center part. If that makes sense right here. I'll show you there. I drew it right there. And just cut that around with some scissors, and now make another one. This is going to be the back side. It'll make sense here in a minute. Okay, these are the lips, so just roughly cut around a little trim, and you can do that with the Exacto knife or the scissors. And now we have the template for the lips. So we have the back side and the lips. And for the lips, I'm placing it over this kind of mustard-ish yellow cardstock paper, because that's the color scheme I'm going for. And just trim that around. The center part, obviously, I use with an Exacto knife because it makes it easier. So now we got our lips. Next is our teeth. And I'm cutting teeny tiny strips of cardstock paper. I mean, you can do this by hand as well. But since I have the tool to do it, why wouldn't I? Okay, so I get a whole bunch of those little black strips, save them for later. And now I'm making the base, which is going to be white for the teeth. Grab the little strips and smear a little tacky glue on them. You might want to air dry it a little bit so it's a little tackier. And you just glue that in place as such. This part's optional. Instead, you can paint it on, draw it on with a marker. Here I roughly cut a long, thin crescent shape for the crease of the teeth. Next, I traced the little nose over the orange cardstock and cut that out as well, placing the pin side down. Once our mouth and teeth are dried out, we can go ahead and cut the outline of that and put our lips over it with some tacky glue. Here I'm just prepping some pieces of cardstock paper that I will be gluing to the back sides of the ears and the eyes later in the video. I'm using some black glitter and some of this confetti paper I made out of tissue black paper for details and textures. You can make this confetti by taking some tissue paper and just cutting it up into tiny little pieces, but that can get a little dangerous, so I'm going to go with my rotary razor cutter, and this thing is awesome. I'm just going to slice and slice back and forth in different directions till I get it as small as possible. Now I'm just going to set that to the side, and I'm going to start applying the edges of the eyes and ears and face with tacky glue and sprinkle it with the glitter as I go along. Fold this piece of paper in half and swoop it back in. Grab some tape and press that up against our phalanges. If you happen to have smudged some of the glue and glitter, it's okay. You can go over it with even more glue and glitter, like nothing ever happened. And if it leaves a little bit of glue residue, it's fine. You can paint over it with some black paint and we'll be good to go. I'm just going to continue this all the way around until I'm done here and let it dry, and we'll do the same thing, only this time with the little teeny tiny confetti paper. I'm going to be sponging through the little stencil parts of the whiskers. I know what you're thinking. Wow, that looks terrible. Yes, it does, but we're going to fix it with the paintbrush. By the way, go ahead and dab this part of the stencil so all the paint dries up and you can flip it over and do the other side. I'm really bound and determined to just sponge this right over that regardless of how messy it looks, because I like how symmetrical it is. At this point, I'm going to take a little bit of that black matte paint and a little brush and clean up all of my mistakes here. Look how good that's going for me. It's a little shiny right now, but once it dries out, it'll blend in perfectly. Alrighty, we cleaned up pretty nicely there, didn't we? Now I'm going to add this handmade tiny confetti paper to the very edges with a hot glue gun. And then I'm just going to dust that over at the very, very edge, not on top of the glitter part, obviously, but the sandwich part of the cardboard. That's what I call it. You know, the little in-between area, so you don't see the little ridges. Yeah, that part. What's that called? The sandwich. Sure. Now I'm going to glue down the nose and the mouth right there in place. Put the mouth down first, work your way around the lips with the Tacky Glue. Now I'm taking those orange pieces of cardstock and cutting them accordingly to size, and I'm going to glue that to the back side. I put something heavy over them so that way it really presses down on that back side and doesn't show any crevices. Now we can take that pleated ribbon we just made and give it a cute little accent piece for the neck. You can swap this part for a bow or a ribbon or even like a really cute crunchy paper bow made out of paper bags. Yes. And now in order to hang this, I'm going to add some backing made out of a strip of cardboard and some twine. Glue the ends to each side, then flip it over and press it to dry. If the cardboard warped during the painting process, not a problem. Just take some water and spritz the backside lightly and place something heavy over it and let it dry flat, and that should fix that. And here is our Halloween black cat in all its glory. You can make these as big as you want, or you can use that same image and make smaller versions of it for a garland. I want to thank our excellent host for inviting me to be a part of this super awesome challenge along with the participating guests. I'm going to leave a link to the playlist of everyone who has joined this challenge in the description box below. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.